Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Sim Kern, pronouns they, them. I'm an author and a booktuber. And today I'm sharing my March TBR. So in March, I've got 10 books picked out that I want to read this month. I'm not going to read all 10, let's be real. But last month I managed 7 books, so I'll hopefully get to most of them. I have sort of different priorities and challenges that I'm doing this month. So the first thing is, obviously what's going on in the world is terrible. I'll once again leave links to ways that you can support Ukrainian refugees and trans kids and trans families in Texas, where I live, down below. When I am grappling to make sense of something in the world or learn something about the world, I want to read about it. And I realized I've never read any fiction by Ukrainian authors, and I wanted to do that. So I've picked out 2 books, one of which is not being released until the end of the month. But the first book that I picked out was Sweet Dariusia, A Tale of Two Villages by Maria Matios. This is translated from the Ukrainian. It's called the best contemporary Ukrainian novel written since Ukrainian independence in 1991. It's an intergenerational family saga, which is one of my favorite genres of literature, and it's kind of telling the history of Ukraine through the story of this family. Obviously very centrally with conflict between Russia and Ukraine and the Soviet Union and all that history, which I'm pretty ignorant of, to be honest, besides broad strokes. So I think that it's a great time to be supporting living Ukrainian authors. And so this was one of the 2 books I picked. The other one I pre-ordered. The English translation is coming out at the end of March 29th. Gray Bees by Andrei Kurkov. And that is a book about, it seems very relevant, very contemporary. It's about a beekeeper living in the contested regions between Ukraine and Russia in contemporary times, obviously pre-invasion, but there's already was so much violence going on at the border that he felt like his bees were not safe, and he wanted his bees to be able to gather their pollen in peace. So this beekeeper goes on a journey through Ukraine to bring his bees somewhere safer. It seems like it has a ton of relevant contemporary historical context. It's an eco-fiction, climate fiction book. I would really love if there are any YouTubers out there that want to join me in reading either Sweet Dariusia or Gray Bees, or both, and maybe we could do a live show and a fundraiser type thing for Ukrainian refugees. I think that would be wonderful. Definitely get in touch if that's something that you would be interested in joining me for a buddy read or something. Next up, I have my 2 picks for Koreadathon, which is going on this week. So I am reading the group read Winter in Sokcho. So it's a tourist town on the border of South and North Korea. Young French-Korean woman works as a receptionist in a rundown guest house. A French graphic novelist determined to find inspiration in this desolate landscape shows up. She agrees to accompany him on a trip to discover an authentic Korea. As she is pulled into his drawings, she is troubled by his vision of her, until she strikes upon a way to be finally seen. I think it sounds really interesting now that I'm actually reading about it. It was a National Book Award winner. The book that I actually started already for Koreadathon is Crying in H Mart, which I've heard wonderful things about. I'm actually having a really hard time with it though, just because the content matter is just hitting a little bit too close to home. I'm in a really bad sort of mental place this month, just with everything that's going on in the world and in our state in particular. It's a memoir of the author's mother's dying of cancer. Things are really complicated between me and my mom right now. Well, she's disowned me for being an Antifa terrorist. We lost her to QAnon and conspiracy theories and everything, and right-wing media. She doesn't talk to me or my brother anymore. So mother relationships are particularly painful for me to read about. I don't know if I'm in the right headspace to finish this, but so I kind of put it down to see if maybe in a few days I'll be feeling better and I can come back to it, but I may have to DNF this one just on content, not because it's not a great book, and hopefully I'll come back to it at some point. Like I said, I'm not doing great mentally, and I actually reached out on Twitter to say, I need something that's going to fill me with some kind of sorry for the garbage truck outside, some kind of hope, or not false hope, but someone put it as bracing clear-eyed courage. That's the kind of thing I'm looking for. And a comp title I gave was Braiding Sweetgrass. Reading Braiding Sweetgrass got me through last year mentally. And I need another hit of something like that. So 2 books that people recommended. One is Pleasure Activism, which is by Adrienne Maree Brown. Something cool is it's put out by AK Press, which is an anarchist press. Actually, they have the full manuscript of my adult novel, The Free People's Village, and the publishing team already passed off on it. They've put it out to their readers. They're like a collective press, so their collective readers are reading it now. I'd be really excited to publish with them though, and they publish Pleasure Activism. It's kind of a book about finding the joy, the eroticism, the, pleasure in activism. It's written as like a bunch of creative personal essays and recollections and memories and praxis, and it's really interesting. I'm listening to it on audiobook and just kind of read a few chapters so far, and am really enjoying it. Another book that was recommended multiple times to me on that thread about books that can kind of give you that sort of sense of wonder about the world was Entangled Life by Merlin Sheldrake, and I've had this book for a year now. It's about how fungi make our worlds, change our minds, and shape our futures. So a lot of people have recommended this as delivering the same sort of hit as Braiding Sweetgrass, and I have been wanting to read it for a long time. I just tend to put off reading nonfiction, so I may get to this month as well. Another nonfiction book that I have to read for research for my book, so this one I'm definitely going to read this month, is You Look Like a Thing and I Love You. There's a machine learning algorithm plot point in Rules for the Reckoning, which is the sequel to my YA Seeds for the Swarm, which is coming out in November. In order to write convincing technobabble and be able to make that plot point as interesting as possible, I want to learn a little bit about machine learning and algorithms, how artificial intelligence works, and why it's making the world a weirder place. This was recommended to me by some other sci-fi authors at ArmadilloCon when I specifically asked the question, like, what is an easy, accessible book that I can read that will kind of catch me up on contemporary AI, not like future speculation about like androids and all that, but like what is going on with AI right now. The next book, which I definitely have to read, is Gun Island by Amitav Ghosh, because this is my pick for this month's Climate Fiction Book Club. First Sunday in April, we will be discussing this. We're going to be a big group this time. In addition to myself, Will, and Sage, Allie Reeds is going to be joining us again, and provided she hasn't given birth to her baby yet, and Anati Nook is going to join us this time, I think. So really excited that we will have a big fun group to discuss Gun Island. What is it about? I don't know. The description on the back is very vague. It's about a guy going on a journey from India to Los Angeles and Venice, and the people he meets along the way. That's pretty much what the description of the book is. I know it has to do with climate change, and I know it has to do with guns, obviously. So, the main character is a dealer of rare books. It should be interesting, and I'm excited for this month's climate fiction pick. 2 more that I may read if I have time. The first one is, again, I'm continuing to try to support books that were banned or are being banned in Texas. Breakaways was a big focal point. School board meeting a few months ago out in Katy, because it has supposedly like racy sexual content, and it's like a cast of queer characters, like a quick graphic novel. I probably will get to this because I can read graphic novels so quickly. Another book that I picked up because it just sounded so amazing yesterday. Yesterday was this book's birthday. Is From Dust Aflame by Rebecca Potos. I may be jinxing myself with buying this book because Becca Potos is a literary agent who currently has requested the full manuscript of Free People's Village. So, it's probably a bad idea to like buy the book of an agent who is probably going to reject you, statistically speaking, because will I want to read her book in the aftermath? Will I feel bitter about it? I don't know. But the book sounded so good, I was like, I don't care, I want to read it anyways. It sounds very similar to my book Depart in that it's an exploration and a modern retelling of like Jewish mythology and folk tales. So I think it may be a book that like pairs very well with my novella. So I don't know much about it besides this YA Jewish mythology, and it had this gorgeous cover. And Becca Potos was so excited talking about it on his book birthday yesterday, and talking about the imposter feelings of like, I don't know if I'm Jewish enough to write a Jewish book, which I can definitely relate to. So for all those reasons, I thought I really want to read it, and I'm going to try to be a big person, and there will be no hard feelings towards Becca, whether or not she offers to represent me as an agent. I still want to read the book. Ooh, I forgot one more book. There's another book, audio book that I purchased that I might get to this month. It was also recommended under mental health books by Becky Chambers. It's a sci-fi novel, first in a series, The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet. So many people came into that thread to recommend Becky Chambers for books that make you feel good. So I'm excited to check that one out. I didn't actually even read the description of it yet. I just know that it's sci-fi, that's very queer and optimistic and utopian and gonna make me feel good. And that sounds great. The last thing I realized just this morning is that I haven't chosen a book I'm reading a lot of books by women this month. My TBR is mostly women, and it is International Women's History Month, but I want to make sure to read a book by a trans woman this month. And I have not picked out a title yet, so I would love to hear books by trans women, particularly, you have really loved, and I'll be picking one of those to also add to my March reading list. If no one comments, then I will do my own research and pick something out. And I'll tell you about it in my March wrap-up video. So, oh, and since my last video, you may have seen my announcement on Twitter, but my short story collection, Real Sugar is Hard to Find, has been picked up by Android Press. I'm so thrilled to be having a short story collection out in the world. Having a short story collection published was always, like, to me, the pinnacle of writing. Like, short stories were my first love. They can be even more powerful and even more difficult to write and do well than a novel. So I'm really excited to work with Android Press. They're the book publishing wing of Solarpunk Magazine. Solarpunk Magazine has only been around for a couple months, but it's done incredibly. They've, like, blown their Kickstarters out of the water. They've put out 2 gorgeous issues already. And now they're starting to publish books, and Real Sugar is going to be among their first print runs. The cover design, I'm going to be able to announce it soon once pre-order's up. It is gorgeous, and I'm so thrilled to share it with you, and the artist is incredible, but I can't do that yet. There's also a book trailer which we've released on Twitter, but I think I'm going to save that for its own video whenever I have the cover and the pre-order link ready to go. Then I'll share all that stuff with you here on YouTube. So I have 2 books coming out this year. Real Sugar is Hard to Find, my short story collection. Those are adult short stories, all climate fiction, eco-fiction, spanning genres from science fiction to fantasy, from dystopia to utopia. That book is coming out in August of 2022. And of course, my YA first in a trilogy, Seeds for the Swarm, is coming out November 1st with Stellaform Press. So very exciting. Got lots of pies in the fire, kind of having a hard time juggling everything, kind of having a hard time reading my sequel, which is under contract. And it's been 2 months. I have all year to write it, but it's been 2 months and I've only written like just shy of 15,000 words. So I need to get on that. Lots of exciting things happening. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.